Virginia, what you know about it? Let's talk about it.
I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Virginia Gangster Files. I'd like to take y'all to 1993 Portsmouth, Virginia. This one's about the River's Edge gangs who held sway and spread terror over the neighborhood. I hope you enjoy this one. Like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to tap that bell for new video alerts. Let's get into it.
Virginia, what you know about it? Let's talk about it.
River Edge drug gang ran the streets of Portsmouth from 1993 to 1995 in Virginia. Then crack addicts and customers streamed into the neighborhood all day long in search of the open-air drug market that drifted from the parking lots outside the Zippy Mart and Mini Mart along Cambridge Street to the shade of the large trees along Wallace Circle. The men who ran the drug market were seldom known by their real names. The customers, numbering sometimes 50 a day, knew them by their face or their street names. There was Robert Winfield, known as Tubbs. Lorenzo Winfield went as Geek. Tabari Lotson was known as Tabar. Demetrius Williams answered to me. John Cobbs went by John. Andre Branch was Dre. Lemuel Brick was called D. All were in their 20s. 5 were convicted in a federal trial for conspiracy to distribute drugs in the River Edge neighborhood. 2 pleaded guilty before the trial began. The convictions were the first major victories to result from a federal task force assigned to combat violent crime in Portsmouth. Robert Winfield and Cobbs were also convicted on charges related to murder and attempted murder. Winfield was the gang's leader, Cobbs his right-hand man and enforcer. If customers, who sometimes came to the drug market as many as 5 times a day, didn't know the dealer's name, they knew their reputation. And as Robert Winfield's reputation for violence grew, so did his power. Winfield controlled the entire neighborhood, deciding who sold crack and who didn't, who would be beaten for not paying their crack bill, and who would live or die. The Norfolk's federal courthouse has never seen the likes of the Winfield gang drug trial, federal officials said. Spectators accustomed to the easygoing atmosphere in Portsmouth state courts were loose-lipped and loud in the hallways. Sometimes they went too far. 3 were barred from the courthouse, and 1, Robert Winfield's father, was arrested for allegedly threatening a witness. For prosecution witnesses, fear permeated the trial. Several went into hiding rather than testify against a gang whose reputation for violence and murder was well known in the neighborhood. 4 were eventually threatened with a cited for contempt until they testified or were released. Several witnesses flip-flopped on expected testimony. Other key witnesses, however, came through, and numerous residents of River Edge from 1993 to 1995 testified about the neighborhood they called Twin Lakes, its name when it was built in 1942 as a shipyard housing during World War II. What emerged was a vivid picture of life before Winfield and his gang were arrested. It used to be like Vietnam around here, said a 57-year-old resident in an interview about the neighborhood. There were always gunfire. Dealers, sometimes numbering a dozen, stood in groups all times a day, rushing up to cars or bicycles or pedestrians who walked up to them. Want to score? That's what they'd ask. Sometimes one of them would get into the car or truck for a drive around the block to exchange money for a 20 block, 50 block, or a dime piece of crack cocaine. Sometimes the dealer would cup their hand in front of the customer, letting them choose the rock that looked the best. The dealers used local houses as crack houses to cut up their cocaine for sale and to store their guns. Sometimes they hid their guns in sheds guarded by dogs. Other times they slipped into jagged holes cut into crawl spaces of the apartments. They often got guns from the customers desperate for a high, and sometimes they got their cars the same way, trading for a few days' use of a car for a 15-minute high. These defendants had 25 to 50 customers a day, U.S. Assistant Attorney Laura Taban told the jury during opening statements. Customers who were beaten, robbed, and assaulted because they wouldn't do what the defendants wanted. All the defendants carried guns, Taban said. As one supplier testified, guns were second nature to Robert Winfield. It's like American Express, he told me. He don't leave home without it. The sound of gunshots at night was common. The defendants shot out street lights and fired into cars and apartments, and sometimes people. William Poorboy Bales, 21, was a regular customer when he was killed during an argument over whether Robert Winfield gave him one rock, a crack, or two. Reginald Fat Daddy Cannon was killed by John Cobbs because he was a rival dealer who had taken a woman's bicycle for an unpaid debt. Mark Martin was killed by Robert Winfield because Martin, who had traded the use of his car for crack, wanted his car back from Cobbs, who refused to return it. Ron Curry was shot in the back when he returned to help his friend Martin, who had pitched forward on the ground, a bullet in the back of his head. Darwin Doe Edie was shot 4 times in the back, once in the side and once in the head, because he told police he saw Robert Winfield shoot Mark Martin. But the victims of the cocaine trade in River Edge were not just those killed, shot, beaten, and threatened. They were people who lost their cars, their homes, their marriages, their families, and their self-respect. They were also the ones hooked on crack cocaine. Nicholas Pugh, 30, whose wife turned him in for writing bad checks and forging her name on checks. Pugh was buying about $50 worth a day, at least 5 times a week. Walter Dupree, 45, who sold the use of his house for the dealers to cut up crack. They paid him well 2 to 320 rocks from each dealer every time they used the house. Dupree told the jury he smoked about 14 $20 rocks a day, sometimes more. James Wynn III, 36, born and raised in Portsmouth, a commercial fisherman who made a good living, Wynn was married, had a truck and part ownership in a seafood business. He lost it all. He told the jury, for $100 a day habit. I spent more than $50,000 in a couple of years, Wynn said. I sold and I lost everything I owned. I've been shot at many times by these defendants. I had them break out my windows with bottles, had store signs thrown at me, Wynn testified. Wynn stole guns his father had hidden from him for safekeeping and traded them for crack. That was an easy trade, better than cash, Wynn told the jury. He had purchased crack on at least 10,000 separate occasions. Mark Martin was 21 when he went to River Edge on Friday night, July 21st. His mother, Shirley Powers, believed he had been free of his cocaine addiction for nearly a year, but something lured him back. Late that night, Martin and his friend Ron Curry took Martin's cream-colored Mustang into River Edge. They traded the use of the car to John Cobbs for a $20 rock. On Monday, July 24th, 1995, Martin and Curry went back to River's Edge looking for Cobbs in the car he had never returned. They saw Tubbs, Doe, Dre, and Fat Boy standing under one of the large shade trees at the corner of Wallace Circle and Cambridge Street. They saw the children playing up and down the street. Curry did all the talking, witnesses later said, asking if anyone had seen John Cobbs or the car. Tubbs, Robert Winfield, walked past them to this burgundy and gray Cadillac and took out a .38 caliber long barrel revolver from the passenger side. tucking it into his pants. As Curry and Martin turned to go, they walked past Winfield. Winfield turned, lifted the gun to shoulder height, and fired, shooting Martin in the back of the head. Martin pitched forward. I heard the first shot, I said. Haul ass, somebody shooting, Curry testified, his voice breaking. Mark, he wasn't beside me. I took a couple steps. I thought he was running, but he wasn't. The force of the bullet forced him to the ground. I didn't know he'd been killed. I looked back and saw he was laying down. I went back to help. As Curry knelt beside Martin, he looked quickly over his shoulder again, saw Winfield holding the gun, and saw a flash and smoke. It was a split second till I was hit, he said. It happened so quick. He shot me one time in the back, and as I was leaning over Mark to see if he was all right, one bullet pierced my lung. One is still lodged near my arm. The second bullet severed the main artery in my leg. The third went behind the kneecap. The artery was bleeding badly. Curry fell and began to pass out from blood loss. Darwin Edie Doe sat stunned. He testified, looking at the two men lying in the street. Winfield wrapped the gun up in his shirt and dropped it in Edie's lap. Edie dropped it over a fence just before he was arrested. Edie told the police everything he'd seen, and he paid for it, he told the jury. That week, Robert Winfield called his cousin David Winfield and told him he knew who the snitch was. His orders? Have John Cobbs take care of it. Following Sunday night on July 30th, 1995, John Cobbs tracked Edie down and asked for a cigarette. Then Cobbs told him he wanted to walk with him up to the laundry. But the laundry was dark and Edie became suspicious. Other gang members had already told him a narcotics officer had said he was singing like a bitch. Edie had denied it, but he was watching his back. Edie slipped away when Cobbs saw some people he knew in the car. But moments later, as he raced through the dark, he heard Cobbs calling his name. Doe! Doe! Cobbs caught up with him, shot him once in the side, 4 times in the back, and once through the side of the forehead, as Edie tried to take cover behind a telephone pole. But Edie lived and became a key witness for the federal government as an eyewitness to Martin's murder, Curry's attempted murder, and his own brush with death. Edie is trying to build a new life, but Martin's family is left with just a memory. The 5 alleged members of the Portsmouth River's Edge gang were convicted of murder, conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine, and other charges. Jurors took about 4 hours to bring the 8-day trial to a close. The first major convictions to result from a federal task force assigned to combat violence and crime in Portsmouth. All the defendants were convicted on all counts against them. Alleged drug kingpin Robert Lee Winfield Jr. was convicted of 4 counts related to murder, 2 counts related to attempted murder, conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine, and organizing a continuing criminal enterprise. 3 firearms charges and 1 count each of possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine and marijuana. He got life in prison. Prosecutors did not seek the death penalty. Winfield was convicted of shooting Mark Martin in the back of the head and killing him in July 1995. As the verdict against Winfield was read, a woman's sobs broke the quiet of the courtroom, and the judge asked her to leave. Her weeping echoed in the hallway outside as the verdicts continued to be read. Also convicted with Winfield were John Lee Cobbs on 2 counts related to attempted murder, 2 firearms charges, and conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine. He got life in prison. Lorenzo Lee Winfield on conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine and a firearms charge. He is a brother of Robert Lee Winfield Jr. He has life in prison. Shabari Lotson on conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine and a a firearms charge, he has life in prison. Demetrius Marcus Williams on conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine and 2 counts of possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Life in prison. The defendants showed little emotion as the verdicts were read. One later turned and tried to comfort a woman crying in the back of the courtroom, saying it would be all right. Sentencing, we feel for the Winfield family, especially for the children, said Shannon McClure, a close family friend of Mark Martin. But at least they'll be able to see them and talk to them. We'll never see Mark again. We're happy with the decision. 7 men originally were charged in the conspiracy to run a drug operation in the River's Edge apartment complex in Portsmouth between June 1993 and December 1995. But 2, Lemuel DeMont Britt and Andre Lamont Branch, pleaded guilty, leaving 5 defendants. This trial has sparked considerable controversy and allegations of witness intimidation. At least 4 witnesses told the judge they were afraid to testify. One witness claimed he was approached on the street and threatened. Another said he received telephone threats. One witness was cited for contempt for refusing to testify. And 3 spectators were barred from the courthouse for alleged gesturing to witnesses and making threatening gestures to police. Larry Torrance, the FBI agent in charge, called the case the worst example of witness intimidation he's seen in 27 years of service. Prosecutors painted a picture of violence, intimidation, and retaliation, including murder, shootings, and severe beatings of drug customers at an open-air market near the River Edge Apartments in Portsmouth. How better to control than by terrorism? Assistant U.S. Attorney Janet Rinke said Friday in her closing argument. This was a conspiracy of violence. This was a conspiracy of terrorism. But defense attorneys had argued, among other things, that the government had not proven its cases of conspiracy. There was no conspiracy. There was no group, said Priscilla Ray, who represented Lassie. Each person did what they did all on their own. No one person or group controlled the market. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all feedback. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time.
Virginia. What you know about it? Let's talk about it.